appears at this time, it appears that all the fatalities were in the sleeping. That is the one most severely burned. That is the one that has so much debris on the inside.
It was her sister Josephine who read the headline first. She said nothing. She simply passed the newspaper across the table. Brentley Mallard's name led the list of killed. She did not hear the story as many women have heard the same, with a paralyzed inability to accept its significance. She wept with sudden wild abandonment in her sister's arms. When the storm of grief had passed, she got up and exited the room alone. She needed to be somewhere else. She needed to be in a better place. She would have no one follow her. She entered her room quietly and sank depressingly into her favorite chair. The physical exhaustion of her body seemed to pull her towards the windowsill. And in a moment she had found peace. She could see in the open square before her house the tops of trees that were aquiver with new spring life. The notes of a distant song which someone was singing reached her faintly. The birds comforted her in the ease. However, the moment faded all too quickly. She exhausted a brief sigh. She leaned back and wondered if reality was actually worth the suffering that it produced. She sat quite motionless in contemplation, only becoming jarred when a sob would creep up into her throat and shake her. She had no choice but to replay the memories in her head. You see, she had loved her husband, but only sometimes. As the memories raced through her head, the most interesting thing began to occur. Her grief began to relieve her. It relieved her of the years of pain and suffering and confusion, of her husband's powerful will being bent upon her soul, of her own inhibition. Her eyes became keen and bright. Her face lit up while the coursing blood warmed and relaxed every inch of her body. She was free. She was lifted up by her self-assertion. She gazed triumphantly out of her favorite window. The knocking came suddenly. It was Josephine. She had no idea of the transformation that had just taken place. She pleaded for her to come outside. She exited the room like the goddess of victory. She clamped onto her sister by her waist and led her back down the hallway. As she descended the stairs, she could have had no idea what would be waiting for her at the bottom. Someone was entering the door. It was Brentley Mallard. He appeared smiling, although exhausted greatly from his travels. He had been nowhere near the scene of the accident. He must have found it quite odd to be greeted by a piercing cry. When the doctors came, they said she had died of a heart disease, of a joy that kills.